Every person is an individual, and every person has a story, and every person has a journey. And because of those reasons, these models of, oh, you've got to do it like this, you've got to do it can't work. There's been a lot of times I felt unsafe in places. I've parked in a car park once and had to run. You can't rush the process.
Alhamdulillah, God gave me everything. Alhamdulillah.
You make a choice and say, come hell or high water, I'm going to be this, then you should not be surprised when you are that. Man, I gave my soul to this game. There's nothing more to give.
Everest is obvious to climb because it's there, it's a mountain. Personal Everest, you can't see it. And no one can see it but you. Never give up on a dream.
Well, look deep within myself and ask myself how much I want it. What am I here for? Don't lose that desire.
I want to unleash the beast.
When I sat here in this crowd, US 93, and saw all these guys, I realized it's there. It's there for the taking if I put the time in.
Be true to the game, because the game will be true to you. If you try to shortcut the game, then the game's going to shortcut you.
So welcome to State of the Game. Today we've got Asma Ajaz Ali, an accomplished community engagement manager for the Birmingham Commonwealth Games and now England squash, as well as a city programme executive for the English Cricket Board. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and let's just start there. Well, firstly, in your role as city programme executive for the English Cricket Board, what was that like and what did that role entail?
The English Cricket Board were quite apparent that they needed to change the game and change the audiences that they have. And there was a programme for South Asian women to get them engaged into cricket. And it was a programme called Dream Big Desi Women, which allowed myself within Birmingham and also across England. There was 8 other city programme executives who kind of wanted to allow women that access through the safe environments that they were in. So looking at communities, looking at how we could help support them play cricket, enjoy cricket, and also promote cricket within their communities. So it was a great programme. Birmingham, obviously myself, we smashed it with the communities and the connections and how people love cricket. We have a large community of, South Asian people in Birmingham, so everybody has some kind of link to cricket. Either they watched it, they played it, they enjoyed it, or their brothers played it, or their dads played it, or they watched it on the telly. And it's great that and also the generations of where they've come from, back home in India, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. All these communities are vibrant for cricket and the showmanship of it and the environment and the atmosphere. So it was lovely to be a part of that programme and to help support that programme and get more women and girls into cricket, because it's a big thing about inclusion at the moment, about trying to ensure that it's not just a men's game. It's not just something your dad played or your brother played. It's something that actually you can play as well. We can create kind of roles for them within the game. In particularly All-Stars cricket was used, and then Dynamos cricket later on, matching up with the 100 game, which is very, very popular at the moment. So yeah, it was a great opportunity to be a part of that programme. But with all things, it was set up, it was great, it was sustainable within the communities now. So it was my time to move on to the games.
Yeah, so talking about the England Cricket Board, how did you come across the opportunity, and what was the process like in terms of getting there and becoming the programme executive?
So I was working in cricket. I started I was never allowed to play cricket, by the way. Growing up, it wasn't something that I was able to do. Culturally, religiously, it was just within our families, it wasn't allowed. So, but I had a love for it. So I used to help my brothers play and then my kids play. And that's how I got into it, through Kabir Ali, actually.
Okay.
He is the cousin of Moeen Ali.
Okay.
And he needed someone to help him with the girls at Moseley School, their old ex-school, and that's how it got started. I just started volunteering. I think the best way for young people to get into roles is to kind of like show that initiative and start volunteering and getting that experience and involvement 100%. And seeing what's it like and if they like it or not, because sometimes if you just go into a job, you can't understand whether it's something that you're going to enjoy. So I think volunteering into it was the best way. I went into obviously the coaching side of it as a coach, developer, educator to help support young people into it. This is because I come from a teaching background and a training background, so that's why it was easier for me to do that role, and I hope that I'm good at that. But I think for young people now, it's about understanding that there's one thing about being an athlete, but around an athlete there's a whole community of things. So it might be the marketing side, it might be the digital or side of things, photography, the coaching, or even the playing, or mentoring. So there's a lot of things involved, and that's the way I went into cricket, and then working for Chance to Shine, street cricket. That was an amazing program. I worked with a lot of young people, in particular girls, and with that obviously helped supported mental health with the girls, and it was a great story with some of my girls who overcame their mental health issues through sport.
Talk to me about that more in detail in terms of like the mental health aspect, because growing up yourself, like let's start from you, how your kind of inception when you just said yourself in terms of like your brothers and all your uncles and your family members were playing it, but you wanted to get involved but you really couldn't because of culture, religion, like issues and problems, and that's why you weren't able to do it. But what was that feeling like as a young person when you couldn't yourself actually partake in it?
It was frustrating, but I'm quite, I'm a person who doesn't like conflict, so I just accepted the fact that I couldn't do it. I tried, and it wasn't allowed. Even at school we weren't allowed to do swimming sessions and things like that, because in them days, I'm a lot older than everybody, there wasn't any women only sessions and things like that. There wasn't anything, everything was mixed. So it was an issue culturally as well, that it wasn't seen right that a woman is playing with the boys. So yeah, it was upsetting. I really had a fire with it, but what I did is I channeled that into actually competing against myself. So I would kind of like run to the shop and time myself of how quickly I could run to the shop to get the milk and run back, and seeing how that worked. So always tried to be quite athletic, and kind of like fit, not anymore. But I think that's how I channeled it is. And also I think how else it was is that I started helping my brothers and coaching them and supporting them, and I felt as though I was a part of it. That way I felt as though I was still a part of it, and that's why my journey into cricket was that help and support part of it, in terms of those interpersonal skills and things that I used, and that really supported, because obviously I've come from a lot of different backgrounds of jobs, because I think it was always sport at the end, but I tried to do other things in between. But with my counselling, I thought that it really helped with the mental health side of things with the young people in the street cricket kind of regime. It really supported the young girls, and even they came on camera and they filmed the fact that cricket really supported their mental health, because it just took their mind off something. It was just something fun.
An outlet.
Yeah, it was just something fun that they could enjoy and be a part of, and not think about their worries, and be in a safe environment, and make friends and socialize and connect with other people similar to themselves. So it was
how
really
hard
good.
was it from that transition of when the first, well, even getting them on board, because a lot of girls would feel like a bit like how you were when you were younger, because of that extra pressure or that feeling, sort of like overbearing feeling, and then they don't really want to step out the shell and like partake in it. So how was it firstly just even getting them to join the session in the first place?
Well, there's
Like,
no
how did that even
pressure.
operate?
What you do is you don't operate in the fact, right, you've got to get involved and you've got to do this and you've got to, here's
No,
the
but
bat.
I
and here's
mean, as in,
Yeah.
in terms of like, so you know, if they're South Asian, well, even women in general, but especially South Asian girls as well, it's that pressure of like family, like even though no one's directly saying it to you, you just feel as if like I'm stepping out my comfort zone and I'm doing something that no one else is doing, so or maybe shouldn't because of like the experiences growing up and that subconscious kind of thoughts. So even for them, because I get it a lot as well when I'm talking to young people, getting them on camera, like even with the young boys that we play football with and a few of the girls, but it's harder in that aspect. But in this one, it's even worse because there's a barrier there before they even step into it. So how is it even just getting them to partake in the actual activity itself?
Yeah, it was
Do you see where I'm
difficult.
coming from?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's conversations. It's communication. It's talking to them about, and role models is another big key one, is when they see somebody else doing it and thinking, oh, wow, you know, she looks like me, she's covered, she's doing it.
Yeah, what can't I?
Oh, it might be something that I can do as well. And also making things safe for them so they feel comfortable, asking them, what would it take for them to be involved? What is it that would allow them to take part? So, you know, in a closed area would be great, you know, something safe for them to start. You find out that some of the girls would just come and just stand first, see what it's about. I just say, just come along, just sit, just chat, just look, just see. And you find from just sitting, chatting, seeing, you know, get involved. Even with like the ECB program, some of the women would just stand and just stand one session watching. Next session, oh, we'll help with the kit, packing it away, putting it away. You know, slow steps. You know, and then the next time, oh, I'll do the register for you. Oh, okay, I'll do the register. Next thing you know, oh, I can run that for you. You know, or chatting and communicating. So you can't rush the process. Every person is an individual, and every person has a story, 100%. And every person has a journey. And because of those reasons, you know, these models of, oh, you've got to do it like this, you've got to do it, it can't work. When you're looking at engaging with somebody, you have to put yourself in their shoes, have a look at what angle are they coming from, what is it that is, you know, what's happening with them at that time, in that present moment, what is it that's happening, how can that be turned positive, how can, you know, some elevation happen in their life that they'll think, oh my God, I wish I had done that ages ago, you know, why didn't I, or whatever. And you find that with a lot of young people as well, is that first they're like, nah, I ain't doing that, it's funny, you know, you get all those vibes.
100%.
But then afterwards they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. So once they're involved and engaged, they're like, they can't get enough of it, and they're coming all the time, or they're, when's the next session, or where, you know, when can I get involved, oh, can I do something, can I this and that? Then it's like whoa, you know, a lot of things. But to begin with, it's a slow process, and there's a lot of understanding that has to happen, a lot of communication, a lot of, you know, you listening,
I think
and
that's
hearing.
the key thing. I think it's listening, actually paying attention to them, and like you said, realizing what is actually stopping them. Is it because of family issues, is it culturally, is it religiously, or is it even just they haven't got the confidence in themselves? Like the parents are telling go, but they just don't want to go themselves. Like
and it's like stepping out of your box, isn't it? It's that unknown, it's that fear of the unknown, of what it's going to be like. Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to, you know, what are people going to think? All those things and thoughts are going through your mind that you just stay there.
Exactly. You don't progress.
So that is I think some of the issues, and some of the issues obviously you look at it from a external point of view and you see what's happening socially. In now digital media and everything else portrays people as certain, so lots of factors have to be considered, but actually you've got to look at who's in front of you, who's that person, what is it that they require, and how can I help support them, what can I do to kind of like elevate that person. And some girls, that majority of the time I'm working with women and girls, but obviously when I work with Supreme Cricket Academy, I work with young boys as well, and it's about, you know, it might be their dad's dream, I want my son to be a cricketer, or you know, or the mom's dream, or whatever, but it's got to come from them.
Is it their dream? Exactly.
Whose dream are we talking about? And also, is it something that you want to fill your time, or is it something, a passion that you want to progress in as well? So there's a lot of reasons about why that why in itself of why people do
like
things.
what is your why? Like, is your why just because you want to play and have a bit of fun, or is it like you actually are with your dad and it's both your aspiration to actually become a cricketer and do it? Because there comes a stage where, like, when your dad's pushing you or whoever's pushing you and you don't want to do it yourself, where it all just goes downhill. Like, it's like you're climbing up the mountain and then you realise that you actually don't really want it, and then you just fall off a cliff because your whole life you've been gearing towards that moment, and then now where you got to keep that dedication and that fire inside you going, you can't do anymore, so then you just stop. And then what happens is then it's all them negative thoughts come in because they're like, I worked so hard to get this far, but I don't want to do it. Then, what should I say to my dad? What should I say to this person? And then again, negative thoughts, all racing around your head. Then you just stop, like you just become stagnant, and then eventually you just drip down in terms of like your trajectory in your life and your mental health.
And then you're like, if only, and the ifs and the buts come into it.
Yeah.
So I just,
And then you play the blame game.
Yeah,
in a sense.
And in a sense, it's just your journey. Maybe it was meant to happen that way. Maybe everything that happens to you is a learning, and is something that is making you something that you are, or making you stronger as well. So don't think as the negative things as delays in your life or non-achievements. It's actually learning for you and progression for you as well. And I think working with a lot of young people, even within education as teaching, is about that nurturing of them and understanding that they understand themselves. Once you have that understanding of yourself, you're able to kind of like project to the world what is it that you want to achieve. And you know, everything is not plain sailing. There's going to be knockbacks all the time.
100%.
And that's why, you know, it's just about keep going, persevering, and that resilience comes in about, you know, carrying on. And I think I found the fact that I had to be strong and resilient, and think that one day I'm going to get there. I'm going to try.
100%.
But I think my time has passed now for sport in a sense, but I still want to give back. And anyhow I can give back, I want to give back. And that's my passion comes into it, is that if I can see, you know, if I can change one person's life and there's something that's great. I mean, even within working with Moseley Cricket Club, I've got a women and girls section there. You know, we got 6 girls through last year to the county age group, and it was super. It was amazing, and it was great to see that, you know, I've been able to support their journeys. But not only them, even within the ECB, there's some women who joined because they said, "Oh, we saw you on the poster and you had a hijab on," and we thought, "Oh, you know, she's representing, so why shouldn't we join?" And it's great to get those messages, to know that actually somehow, without me knowing, I've changed somebody's life or their direction or what they want to think, that they think it's impossible, but actually no, you can go and get that dream.
But you know, in order to actually teach people, you have to like learn it yourself in a sense. So coming back to your story in terms of like your childhood, because you kind of glossed over a bit in terms of like you were running towards like buying the milk, and you're running and like timing yourself and stuff, but you couldn't actually partake in any activities where like for yourself. But obviously at the time you're feeling like frustration, you're feeling like, oh, why me, why this, why that, like there's so many thoughts running around your head. But where was that switch in terms of like then helping your brothers and involving yourself in sport in that way, and instead of like humbling yourself in a sense where just because you haven't had the opportunity to do it yourself, where like you're not playing the blame game and blaming someone else, or associating any negative thoughts and saying like, oh, why he's doing it or she's doing it but I can't do it, you know, like those kind of thoughts, and stopping yourself from doing that, and then actually helping others and like being happy and content helping other people kind of develop themselves in the sport.
I think it's I think my religion played a big part in that acceptance. In those day and ages, you know, we were acceptance more about, okay, fine, let's move on from that. If I started thinking about it deeply, I would be in a bad place. So I think acceptance of, okay, yeah, let's move on, let's see what I can achieve. And a lot of that came from my religion, my deen and my Islam. And me learning about the religion and understanding, and how, you know, things happen for a reason, and you know, God is the best of planners for us, and taking that on board really kind of like helps you, helps your heart, helps the way you feel and think, and it's always about
We're always religious.
Yeah, I think my brothers and sisters thought I was born with a headscarf on because I've never had it off. But yeah, there's always been something there. I wish I could be more. You know, I try and practice everything that I can do. Obviously, the daily prayers are a must for me. Even if it's in the middle of somewhere, I will try and pray at that time. Yeah, it's a big part of me.
But was that a current theme throughout your childhood where you always like, because obviously a lot of young people go to that rebellious stage, like, because it's natural when you're like 9-10 years old where you're not really praying like or keeping it on time, and like not even like within yourself, like you're not, well, you know you're Muslim, but like, or you know your religion or whatever it is, but you're not really attuned to it in a sense where you're saying acceptance of like what the situation is and moving forward. Was there ever a stage where you weren't really thinking like that, and when you first got those restrictions or blockages in your way in terms of like when you realised that you can't actually partake in sport or do these types of things that you really wanted to do, was there ever like some sort of resistance there, and like where you had to kind of overcome that, and that's where you got closer to your deen? And like,
I think it did. I think you know, whenever you feel challenges, you know, you're hurting, aren't you, internally?
Yeah, it's natural.
And therefore, you know, you're looking for a channel of where can I grasp something, and for me it was my religion that I was able to accept it. And I think I'm very much a spiritual person anyway, and the mindfulness and those kind of things really helped me personally, and that my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was maybe everyone's is different, but that kind of connection with me really supported me, because there was a lot of challenges obviously growing up in life in the 70s and the 80s was very different from life now. And I say that to my kids, I go, you're so lucky. But you know, with everything, because even within society there was a lot of racism, you know, that I was subjected to physically. As well, even in, you know, down the road in city centre, being thrown down an escalator just for being brown, or you know, so there was lots of issues in those days that, you know, would have created hate, but it didn't for me.
How did it? Obviously,
I think it's just the way I am. Just the way I am, in the sense that, you know, I try and see things that how can we show people that we're peaceful, we're a peaceful community, and that we want to do good from whatever land that we live in. We want to support that. We want a generation of people who can help support that, and it's a lot about community for me. It's about that community. And
was that instant? About like when obviously you're getting thrown on the escalator, your first thought is why? Like you obviously, well, I don't know what the first thought is, but like
I think we already had the fear of it anyway, growing up. Then
no, but when it happens, like there's one thing like knowing that there's something that could happen, but another thing experiencing it. So how was it like first of all, obviously naturally you're feeling like there's hate towards it, like why are they doing it to me, and like all these thoughts racing through your head, like so how was you kind of formulating that within your mind and then accepting the situation, as you said before, or did you ever accept it?
I think that to be honest, there's always going to be racism. I don't think I wish and dream of a world where it's not going to happen, but I think at the back of my mind I always know that it's there, and because of that, it does kind of like you always think it, feel it, fear it. Sometimes you think that the world is changing. A lot of sporting organisations are changing. Obviously, sport has had a lot of issues with racism, whether it's football, whether it's cricket. There's a long road to go, but the fact that they want to change is good. For me, I think it was, at that time, it was just about run, you know, just run.
But then when
just
you got
grab
home,
my sister and run. Let's run, and let's not tell anybody. I didn't tell my family. We didn't tell anybody. Now, like, you know, 30, 40 years later, I'm telling people, but then, no, you didn't tell nobody.
Yeah, so why didn't you tell anyone?
I thought we were going to get told off.
Okay. Told off what?
Just told off for, you know, just as kids, your mind will be on, oh, it must have been something we'd done, or something like that. We thought we'd get told off, or we didn't want to upset our parents. In them days, you want to please your parents, you want to keep them happy, and you want them to show that you're doing well.
You don't want to bring that home,
and you don't want to bring anything that would upset them home. You don't want them to know that you're getting abuse. Even as a child, I mean, I grew up in Yorkshire to begin with. The table I used to sit at, there was 2 boys. They used to kick me under the table all the time.
Okay.
All the time. And
You never said a word.
I never said anything. And I used to think, when is this going to end? They're kicking me. But actually, it supported me being a stronger woman with men, really. I don't try and allow them to be superior to me. I want them to be equal to me. It was, maybe it was a learning curve. The wrong way, completely. But
no, but I feel like obviously not that extreme, but like situations where you realize, like, when you take a loss in life, or like a loss in any aspect, in terms of, like, for example, like if I'm in a fight now, like just another extreme example, but for me, let's say if I'm in a fight or I'm in a situation where I lose or I've done something wrong and something's happened, is I gotta learn from that in order to grow, because next time I won't do the same mistake, and I'll make a change, because I feel like, although the extreme examples, but I feel like you got to go through that uncomfortable stage, whatever it is, business, life, whatever aspect, talking to people, and then you want to learn from that mistake, and you actually you formulate it within your head, you process it, and you actually realize what the mistake was, and you make sure it don't happen again, and that way you grow, and then you become a better human being overall.
Do you know that's a book that you can write now? Right there, and then you can put it all in the writing. But it's one of those. It's one of those things. It's part of life. Everyone's journey is different, and some people have more hardship than others. Whether you might look the same as me and have no issues whatsoever. It depends where you come from. I mean, I lived in a city, Birmingham. People call it the ghetto, whatever. It's a place. It was a home for us. And that's where we grew up. So there was lots of gang culture. Boys in my class in school, either they were part of a gang, or they were in trouble with the police or things like that. So it was a very difficult time in the early 80s for a lot of people, especially in Birmingham, when that culture was such apparent. Even and then so you've got that side of things, and then you've got the race side of things, and I think
how do you stay away from all of it? So
I think in a way, being a girl, it kind of, the restrictions I had of not being able to go out kind of helped, kind of thing.
In a sense,
in a sense, you went to school and you came home, and that was it, really. So
do you think it was necessary back then to have that kind of curfew, or do you feel like it could have been a bit more flexible, like just looking back?
I think it could have been more flexible. Definitely could have been more flexible, but I think parents in them days were also fearful of being in a new environment, in a new country, in a new place, and they were fear themselves, so it was just a protection.
But were you accepting of it? Because obviously you realise what it is, but then...
Yeah, I think I might have been a bit naive then, but now thinking back then, I think, things could have been different, but just accepted what was there and given at the time. You didn't really have too much of a voice then. So
how did you kind of grow your voice in terms of, like...
I think I became a really strong character, woman, independently. I just wanted to do things for myself and be independent, and
how did that discipline come? Because a lot of people would, they'd get all these kind of feelings and all these knockbacks, and like when they're trying to go forward and they can't get forward, and then they just leave you at that. They'll be accepting of their situation and just keep it moving in terms of in that aspect. But you, like, which I can tell from your story, you've always drove to kind of keep knocking that door till it kind of like actually opened. In a sense, if you get what I'm coming
all
from.
the doors. I think so because I saw my parents having difficulties financially and struggling in the community and stuff like that. I think that really drove me. That I don't want to be like that. I want to have those challenges and really, and I wanted to support them at that time, even though probably useless at that age to support them. But I really wanted to be able to support them as much as I could, really. And I think that drive came from that. I was doing
Yeah, that passion.
changing plugs at the age of 8, 9, and
Yeah.
you know, people laugh at me. You know, going off and doing car maintenance courses and
Okay, car
and
maintenance
things-
courses.
random electric courses and
Okay,
things
yeah.
like that.
So you always
you
had
know?
this kind of passion to like do. other
Just
things
wanted to
like-
learn. I had a passion for learning.
Yeah, but was there ever a stage where you were thinking like, I just gotta stop and just like?
And I'm still learning now.
Yeah, no, but I mean, as in accept your role, because obviously at that time, especially in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was kind of like it was unheard of, especially for a young South Asian woman to actually partake in all these courses and do these things. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you went to those courses and done those courses, you were the only South Asian woman in the room.
Yeah.
Or one of a few. So how was that feeling like, and why didn't you just feel like
I just did it. I did it. I just did it secretly.
Yeah,
like
no, but
because I wanted to learn.
yeah, but was it like, where did that confidence come from? Because when you're in the room, like
I
there's
think-
one thing applying for the course, and then when you actually get into the room, you look around and it's all majority maybe men because it's electric maintenance course, and if there's women, they're not South Asian women. So what was that kind of dynamic like? And
At that age, I didn't care. I didn't care. I thought, I don't care. I'm different to you. So what?
okay,
I'm me. I'm different. I look
You always had that
different,
confidence.
and there's no point me being like feeling a bit insecure in myself just because you are white or you are men. I did a graduate scheme in Swindon.
okay,
I was the only South Asian person there covering.
So how
I
did you
felt a
get there?
bit intimidated. You get those feelings, but you have to try and cope with those feelings, and it's about how you cope with those feelings.
So how did you?
Do you let them get to you, or do you suppress those feelings to try and give yourself the positives out of the aspect? The fact that you're here is great. You know, don't get me wrong, 9/11 was rubbish for me. Rubbish to the point where I had to leave work, and it was a great job. It was a graduate scheme that I got onto with a great company. Don't know if I can remind who they are, but I was working with consultants from different places, and I used to hear comments about 9/11 about me, and you know, about what she's got in her bag and things like that. I had it horrible. But I even told one of my bosses that, you know, they're saying these things about me. You know, I'm not, I've got nothing to do with 9/11. It was the hardest thing, and I think that's when discrimination was at its peak in terms of Islamophobia and things like
it
that.
was more noticeable.
It was, and then that's when I started feeling unsafe myself. There's been a lot of times I felt unsafe in places. You know, I've parked in a car park once and had to run because people were calling me racist names as Paki and everything else. And I thought, oh my God, I'm on my own. I've got to run. I'm being chased because I am who I am. So there was
Why carry
lots. What?
Why carry on? Because you know you've had all these experiences throughout your life, and when you get reminded of it, so like,
Why let them win? Why am I
Yeah.
going to let them win? If I go into a corner and just sit there in fear and cry, I've let them win. They've
Where
won
does that
then.
come from? Like, there's one thing having the confidence, and then, you know, because some people, like, they repeat these mantras and these quotes all that to themselves, and then when they get to that position, you know, when they actually have to deliver on them quotes and back their talk, they don't.
Because
Why do you
you've got
always
to, because I had to carry on. I had a job. I had to be there. I had to get there. I don't want to let anybody down. I don't, you know, I trust the people that I'm around, and I don't want to let them down. If I've got a job to do, I have to do it. I need to be there on time and be a part of that. And my family hate this thing about me, about being, I always need to be on time and be at places
No, but that's
there
good.
or early
Yeah.
and make sure that I don't let anybody down. And I think it satisfies me helping people and being a part of something that is beneficial. Always, that's what gives me the, you know, it's like the Arabic word sukoon. It gives me peace and it gives me contentment. That if I've helped somebody or have helped support something and people have benefited from it, I love that. I think it's great because I always want to be in the service of others and servitude of others. And I think that's where my deen comes into it, and my religion of being able to service other people and support other people whatever it is, you know, little thing or a big thing. I did a lot of work as a volunteer chaplaincy in QE Hospital.
Okay.
And that was to humble me.
What was that?
That was so basically you be a part of the chaplaincy team and you go and visit the sick.
Okay.
And you are that person that they can come and talk to. They might be in there, might be an old person who's in that bed day and night. And I've been in there for months and have no visitors. And you go to them,
give them the
and
support.
they've had somebody who's visiting them, and they might be South Asian because they'll say, "Oh no, my kids are too busy. They're working. They're abroad or they're away." The parents make excuses for their children, but you go and sit with them, or you pray with them, or something. It humbles you being in that environment and being in that hospital, and not having the status of you've got a little bib on that says volunteer, and you're making a difference just because of. You know, you're probably the lowest of the low, but the fact is the work that you're doing is changing somebody's day.
It's about impact,
Yeah, it's changing someone's day and supporting them. And just always have to remember, I always have to try and keep my ego in check. Don't think that just because you've achieved things that, you know, you're the bee's knees. There's always learning. There's always trying to put yourself in a position where you're humbled by and being grateful for what you've been given. Grateful the fact that I've been born in this country. Grateful for the fact that I have the support of this country in my education, in my health services, everything. You know, I look around. If you look at the world and you look at the people and you look at what their day is like, you put yourself in their position and you think, your day is to go out there and see if you can find some food.
100%.
Go and find some food. I mean, what have we got? We've got whole rooms called kitchens, you know, anything we can check out. And still, we're like, we don't know what to eat. Where should we go to eat? I've not been to that restaurant already. I don't want to go there again.
And then when you get there, you overeat.
And it's just a different, you know, it's a different psychology completely. But to be able to still remember, be grateful what I've been given, but also remember that it's a privilege.
Was there any a time where you kind of got too big for your boots? Like, yours, not mine, but like you ever got to a stage where you thought, like there was a moment where you thought you were better than you actually were? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you get overconfident. I think, was there ever a moment where you kind of fell into that trap for a bit and then you kind of talked yourself out of it and kind of reminded yourself of who you are? I can't remember. There must have been. I think it must have been. I think marriage does that to you a little bit, because you have a husband and you feel, this is great. I've got a husband and everything else, and not on the same level, but But then when that's taken away from you, then you realise, it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be. But so there's lots of times where you kept in check, and I actually pray that God keeps me on the straight path, and please, I pray that I'm always in check, or people around you to keep you in check as well. And I've been fortunate enough to be in an environment where a lot of the times I'm doing work on my own, so therefore there isn't that need to have that ego to boast to people about. Because where I'm coming from and where the next man's coming from is completely different. Everybody's, like I said, journey is different. And young people need to understand that, especially now with the media, is, especially when I'm working with young girls, is about that portrayal of body image is so massive. But they need to understand that that's just not everybody. The celebrities, they don't help with portraying that. People thinking they can't go into sport because we're not fit. That's rubbish. You can go into sport. There's one athlete, but there's a million people around that athlete that work that needs to be done in sport. Don't think that, because I know a lot of stereotypical views of South Asian is you need a job that's got good pay. A 9 to 5.
And you get a good pay, good job, good. You need a property, you need a house, and people feel that sport doesn't. I mean, if you're not the athlete, the sport, the pay isn't great. I'm not gonna lie, the pay is not great, and that's why I think people fade away from it, because they think, it's not enough or whatever. passion has to keep you going. And sometimes with all jobs, people's, it withers away sometimes. But you've got to find something that's core and centered to you that will help you kind of drive forward. And young people now, there's so many things that they can get involved in. It's that drive of trying to move forward into something. I mean, I started working for the Commonwealth Games because I thought, wow, this is a way that before I was working for one national governing body, this will allow me to work with so many national governing bodies and actually the community side of it, offering these sports to all these different communities. Oh my God, they're going to be able to see stuff they've never seen before. We went to a park with wrestling. I mean, you don't often see wrestling happening in the middle of Aston, So it was like, oh, what's this? What's that? People asking questions and stuff like that. Even with squash now, juice, what's squash? And I was like, no, it's not Robinson juice. It's squash is a sport. So the awareness of some of these sports for that role that I did with the Commonwealth Games was massive to allow, and I did that not for the organisation. Yes, it filtered into the organisation, and I smashed that.
It goes hand in hand.
But for me, it was about these communities and what we could showcase to them, what we could tell them, what we could offer them.
Broaden the horizon.
But also see talent. And show talent and allow them to aspire to the fact that, oh my God, I've just had a go at that. I love that. I wonder where I can go to do that. Is there somewhere that I can go and do that? So it's opening things to them that actually it's not just all about football. Sorry. It's not all about football or cricket. There's other sports out there that, probably need to get a bit more of a show than the two main ones because everyone else is like the poor relative of sport, but they are still important, and you can get champions in them. You can make champions in them. I mean, 100%. Squash have proven that in the Commonwealth Games with 6 medals.
There you go.
And the girls got gold as well. So that was great. I'm new into squash. I used to watch squash when I was younger, but
I only played squash. Well, apart from our event, and I played it there. But I played it once before. I think with school, like my primary school once.
Wow.
I think in Edgebath. No, in Stan Caulfield, I think.
Yeah.
I played it the one time, that's it. But it's a good sport though.
It's a great sport. Once you hold that racket and you hit that ball against the wall or anything, once you smash that and hit that ball, it's absolutely great. But it's just about getting to that position. But a lot of people don't know what it is, and that's why my role within squash is about promoting the awareness and getting more people involved, especially South Asian, because the biggest, the world famous Jahangir Khan, it was from Pakistan.
I didn't know that.
South Asian, and it was just like, wow, he ruled squash for decades in the sense that he was a super player. But now kids from his communities here,
I don't know. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know. I only find out when I think my dad met him.
Okay.
And that's how I find out. Before that, I had no idea.
So there's lots of things. There's lots of things that we connect in and we think about. But that's why I'm doing that role. It's because I want to be able to show kids that actually, or adults, that you can play that sport and become somebody in it if you want to. Don't hold yourself back. It's a sport that at the minute is seen as a upper middle class sport in private clubs where it's majority white male.
I was just going to say the access isn't there at the moment.
But we are bringing access. So England Squash are working really hard to bring that access, and that's why I'm employed to make sure that we smash that, get it to the communities, get it to the people that need it, take it to them, take it to the masjids, take it to the temples, take it to gurdwaras.
Because I feel like when people watch this, they're gonna think the squash is just like you need a wall or you need like it's a glass or something, but you don't. Cause
you can do it on anything.
You got the net as well.
Do it on a net. You can do it anything.
The net's a portable. You can do it wherever.
10 minutes, set up, set it up and do it. Fine, the court's a lot more, but you can just do it anywhere. You can play it anywhere. You can do it anywhere. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter about your age. Doesn't matter about your disability. You can get involved.
100%.
We're going to start off doing that with deaf community as well, because I sign as well, BSL, because some of my work was about looking at the deaf community and looking at why I volunteered for them about why can't they be a part of society in themselves just because they haven't got hearing. So I started learning sign language and helping, supporting, people who were deaf access things. And this is the reason why sport is the best way of doing things like that, is because it doesn't matter. You can just do sport. Doesn't matter what you look like, what your size is, what your disability is. It's something that unites everybody. And once people start realizing that, you'll find that a lot of faith groups will start taking up sports in there. Some places are great at it. You go into their place and they've got, oh yeah, we've got a basketball team, we've got this team, we've got a football team. But it's great to be able to access it no matter where you are in the community. Whether you go to the park on a Saturday morning to play, or whether you go to a madrasa to study Quran, or whether you go to temple to learn Punjabi, or whatever you do, you should be able to access it. Shouldn't be that you can't have it just because of where you live.
Yeah, and who you are.
Or because the community you're in, there's not much money, there's deprivation. And that is a big issue for sport, is to understand deprivation. But not only deprivation from can I afford a meal on the table for my kids, or am I going to send them to a club for sport?
But there's deprivation in terms of access as well.
Yeah, deprivation of access. And even digital access, lots of things you have to do online. Even ticket booking is online, and stuff like that is all online.
Some parents don't understand it.
They don't understand it, or there's not awareness, or they haven't got access, because it costs money to get a router in your house, and a monthly internet cost, or it's bad enough with TV license and things. It's to let them have access through outlets that are close to them, like community groups, and then work with those community groups to allow access. So if that's where their local club is, make it accessible, so allow it to happen. So we had this a lot with cricket, where is there a girls' changing room? Is there a girls' toilet? Forget anything else.
Little things like that.
Is there that? Let alone anything else.
Basic necessities.
Yeah. So taking it in small steps, and everybody's learning. There's a big thing now, drive about equalities, diversity, inclusion, and things. But what they're forgetting is that you need the people who have experienced all that to be a part of that conversation. You can't be somebody sitting in some ivory tower. We're going to do inclusion, we're going to do, but you don't understand it. You don't know what it is. You don't know.
You can't have someone just parachuting in, doing a one program, one scheme, and then just parachuting back out. You got to stay within the community. And that's what communities, yourself in the community, and build relationships.
That's what communities hate, because that's what some of the stuff I've done has been that, where you parachute in, you do it, and then not me, but the organisation doesn't carry it forward. You need the organisation to do that long journey of carrying on with that programme, to be able to make athletes from the community. Or, how much is your investment then? Is it just, we're just showing that we can do this? But no, it should be that we are showing that you can do it, but also we're going to carry on this journey. We're going to make leaders. We're going to make these young people leaders to be able to deliver that for a long time. Because if they're part of a youth group or whatever, they're going to carry on coming to that youth group. I was speaking to some youth workers, and they've been in there. There used to be a youth in that youth service, and they've stayed there. They've done it there for 20 years or 30 years. I'm like, wow, look at the impact that they've had, that massive. Nobody sees, or, that they used to be in there. They used to work, come there and have access to facilities, and now they're the providers of it. So they really know the journey. So grassroots and organisations that are in grassroots are the pinnacle for everything. They are the people that you need to go to. These large organisations need to speak to them and talk to them, and talk to the young people on the street as well. Talk to them about what are they facing now. Is it drugs? Is it, what is it? Is it bullying? Is it cyber bullying? What's happening at the minute? A lot of it has gone digital, obviously Snapchat, TikTok, this, that, the other. I don't even know how to use half of them, right? I can get onto Twitter now. But the fact is that my kids are, whatever they are, in their 20s or whatever, that's the norm for them. Selfies are everything. Taking a picture of your food, your drink, wherever you are. It's like, wow. But it's their culture. So if that's part of their culture, then it needs to be positive. You can't just say, oh, you can't use that, it's not bad for you. That's not going to stop them.
They'll make it worse.
Yeah, you're just
You
going to
push
make
them forward to
it,
make
you
them
push
do it.
them forward. So, okay, so you're using this then, so how can we use it positively?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Can't say, oh no, that's haram, you can't use it, or that's wrong, it's making people bullying. You ain't going to stop everyone. So how do we use that same channel in a positive way? How can young people influence that in a positive way? What can they do other than, you know, don't do banter on there, but what can you do to help support the negative? And that's question to you.
Yeah. So you can't hide from it. You have to, like you said, when in terms of Instagram, TikTok, you can't stop the young people from using the apps because they're going to use the apps regardless, even if you ban them or ban their phone, take it off them. And if you do ban their phone or take it off them, you're stopping them from progressing, because when it comes down the line, everyone else knows that to use social media from the day they were born, but they will be 5-6 years behind, because once you've let them give the access, they're already behind, because obviously everyone else is using them and learning that skill set. So you can't hide away from it, but it's how do you manage it? So is it the case of like you make them understand who they are first of all, and what they represent, and also the values, like the principles. So when they're coming home, is the environment, like why is it a happy environment? Are you nurturing them in a way, like for me it's understanding like your religion, your deen, understanding what's right, what's wrong, and understanding when problems or issues occur, whatever they may be, can you talk to someone? So instead of like your parents saying to you, look, don't do this or don't do that, this, that, like, you know, like shouting at them and being negative towards them, your kid ain't gonna trust you with any information. Then it doesn't matter what age they are, they could be 25, 30, like whatever happens when they're younger, it carries on forward within their life. So when you were saying earlier about being a volunteer in a chaplaincy, and you said they make excuses for their young people, but maybe if you think about it, it could be that they were too harsh on their kids when they're younger and they never built a relationship with them, so they kind of just gave them food on the table or were argumentative and, you know, did different situations in the house. So later on in life, it's impacted them in a way where, I'm not saying it's right, but the children may feel like, I ain't got that connection with my mother, my father, or whoever it may be. So then they naturally distance themselves, and then when it comes to issues like when they're ill in the hospital bed or something's happening, they haven't got the relationship with their parents, so they don't feel the need, which is wrong, I'm not saying it's right, but they don't feel the need to visit them, to look after them, or because they don't have the relationship with them. And you can't say it's entirely their fault. It's a yin and yang, like it's their fault in one sense because they never nurtured them or gave that communication. It's wrong on the children's sense because it doesn't matter what your parents do, you still got to look after them. But it's that breakdown in communication.
Yeah, but it's also never too late to change. And everyone always has to remember that when you're in a bad situation or there's a situation, there's never too late.
Yeah, it can be resolved.
Everything can be resolved. Everything can be resolved. It's never too late to humble yourself, to say sorry, or you know, come together and have that dialogue to meet each other and say something. And I think that's really important, is to understand that, you know, and that's all about, the fact that comes back to is about how willingly are you to think, no, man, you know, that facade that you have is how are you going to drop that?
Yeah, exactly.
And actually that's why I say that my deen helps me with things like that, because you need that in you to be able to humble yourself and ask for forgiveness, maybe.
And I think you have to have the core principles. Like for me, if I respect everyone, but the moment that it's disrespect, then for me it's disrespect. Like it's disrespect back. But it's not in a case of like I'll be standoffish and I tell it to your face. It's just that I know what it is then. And so that's the way I do it. Because I feel like some people, they go the other side of the spectrum in terms of like they're too forgiving or they're too like going with the flow and they're not really willing to stand up for so let me repeat myself. They're not willing to stand up for themselves and kind of take a stand. So it's like you gotta know your core principles and what you accept, what you don't accept, and stay true to that. So then, throughout your life, everyone knows that your word is bond, and what you say you do. You gotta always back your talk, because I feel like now, especially, everyone talks like a big game and talks like all this and that. But then when it comes to the actual actions, you don't see it. You're like, am I true or not?
Yeah. And also, you know, what you understand is that that changes as you age as well. So I'll tell you that for straight. Like, I didn't stand up for myself as much as I should have. I think, but as you get older and you get more wiser and you get more confidence and, you know, you understand things better, you will start kind of like standing up for what you're saying about what's right and what's wrong, and you'll start kind of defending your own self as well a lot more, not in a negative way, but just to kind of like validate yourself on what you're doing. But that's when I said that, you know, social media and what the apps that the kids use now can be seen as a negative thing, but like you said, it's a positive thing because they don't want to be, you know, they want to be in with the times, but it's about how the messaging on all of that, on those channels, can be seen as positive. So always show positivity when something rubbish is happening. Flex it, change it to something, you know, back somebody up, you know, if they're doing something good. And don't go with the crowd. Like lots of people, young people, they stick with the crowd. You know, be your own person.
They don't want to be unique anymore. Like they don't want to like, because you know what it
they
is?
think people will laugh at you if you stand out. But
But I feel like what social media has done is amplified. Because I feel like the characters and the situation I see today, it's been the same 100 years ago, but it's just more amplified now because everyone feels like, because they've got a camera, they've got a phone, they've got a voice now. So all you hear online is everyone's opinions, but opinions were there before. It's just like you won't hear it because they're talking within their own household or within their own community. But now because the world's the community, everyone hears everyone's perspectives and what their thoughts are in different situations. So then that's why you got to know who you are first. Like it comes down to that quote where it takes a village to raise a child, and it's the same with your young person or whoever it is on social media, because that's the village. So if you want to instill the good qualities and make sure that your young person or like the people that you associate with have good values and understanding and they know what it is, then you have to take that upon yourself to teach them. You can't just say, oh, social media is a bad thing and take them off it, because they're never going to learn. And it's up to you to give them that guidance, because the game's the game, but it's up to you to kind of navigate that game and adapt when things or situations happen, and know that tough times are going to come. It doesn't matter how good you plan or how stringent you are in the academic like life and like you plan out their career path from, because anything can happen at any moment that just deters them from that path or stops you from giving them that support.
Yeah, situations change, and that's why it comes back to dialogue, and it comes back to communication, it comes back to understanding, and the biggest key again, like we said, is listening. People think they're listening, but they're not listening. There's listening and there's hearing.
Exactly, like 100%.
You know, it's about, sometimes my even I'm guilty of, like, sometimes when my son's talking and I'm like thinking about something else. So it's about you've got to acknowledge that, oh gosh, I wasn't listening.
Be present.
Be present with that person in front of you, and that's when truths and, you know, vulnerabilities and everything comes across. And as a young person, don't think I don't have that. You know, you can get it. You can develop it. You can develop that with, you know, with your father or whoever. My father was very strict. So you can develop it as time goes on, because even though you're growing, they're growing as well. So they're not the same person that they were when you were little. And you're not the same person you were. So both people have a journey, and they have had changes in their lives, and their thought processes have changed and things have changed. So everything changes, and because society is changing so rapidly, some people are staying up with it, but some people have that gradual stepping of their, you know, getting there, you know, kind of thing. So slowly but surely, you're right. So I think just young people today have to understand that, and I think sport is a vehicle for that. You know, when they're trying to be a part of something, sport can be one of those factors that they can be a part of and feel safe and comfortable. And especially, obviously, I'm an advocate for women and girls, because I feel as that, you know, boys have had it for too long. You know? No, 100%. So girls need that chance now and opportunity. I mean, I'm not against men and boys being a part of things. I'm fine with that. I just think that girls and women need their space as well. In every kind of sport and in everything in life. Give us that chance, give us that opportunity, even within organisations that you will see, you know, board level, you know, there wasn't many women on there. Now, you know, we're seeing women on those boards, and now what the culture's changing is that people have realised about diversity and seeing people from different backgrounds to be part of that. And I think organisations need to see that actually diversity brings goodness and it brings more ideas, more skills, more difference of thinking out the box and things like that. And they need to embrace that and not think, oh, well, she hasn't been to Harvard or she hasn't done this or we haven't done that. Think about the life experience that person's had. Think about what that journey is and how they've developed and how you give them this opportunity. They're going to make something out of it. They're going to change something. I've got girls who've, real sort of women who've never really thought about doing squash or cricket and they've done it and now they're like, oh my God, I really want my daughter to do this. She'll love it. She'll be really good at it. Da, 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 da. I was like, wow, you have that trickle effect of changing something. Oh, I'm going to tell my sister about this. Oh, I'm going to tell my auntie. I'm going to tell my friends. Da, 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 da. Word of mouth, great positive messaging happening and it's great. But organisations need to understand is that they need to be ready for these people of differences coming to them because I don't think they are. And we've seen that from a lot of racial stuff and stories within sport, whether it's on the football pitch or whether it's been with a player or whether it's been with cricket and players and everything. It's not just about the player. Sometimes you're not a player, you're part of the game of sport and you might have had racism or something. So these large organisations need to understand that if you want these talented young people coming through into your organisations, you need to be open and ready for them. And the young people also need to be open and ready for them and say, you know what, we can bring something to the table here.
And I feel like, I don't know about you, but me personally, I feel like it's accepting the challenges. So, sometimes when you realise it's racist, the institution is racist or they've got biases towards other races or something like that, something along them lines, and then you feel like, I can't do it then, I'm just going to leave it because I'm going to have all this headache and all this other stuff. But I feel like there has to be sacrificial lambs, there has to be, I know it's a bit harsh the way I'm saying it, but what I'm trying to say is
very harsh.
No, but what I'm trying to say is you have to push through that barrier. Someone has to do it. Someone has to push through that barrier and take all the bullets and make something of themselves if they have the ability and the know how to do it. And that way they can bring other people across.
That's great. Leaders have always been like that, where you're looking at Nelson Mandela, you're looking at great people like Muhammad Ali, you're looking at the people that have done that. You're also looking at, from my religious point of view, I'm looking at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, that he did that for the path of Islam. So you've always got, and if you look at their stories and the way of living is what I try and strive for because of the impacts that they've had, and where that they're heading to. Obviously with our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's what I want personally on a personal journey, but also in life, because in a lot of my religious texts it says about Deenul Dunya, Deenul Islam. So it's obviously looking at where you're living now and incorporating your religion within that in a positive way. And if you look at all great leaders, that's what they've tried to do, is to do that. And young people can also do that. They just have to do that. No, they can do it on a bigger scale as well.
What I mean is
start small.
So it's a small steps. So what I was trying to head to in terms of my point was, so when you first meet this resistance, be it business or even racial biases or whatever it may be, is ignore it. You gotta maintain a level. Obviously you're gonna feel frustrated, you're gonna feel feelings of being pissed off or angry or that resistance at the world or in yourself, but you gotta push through that, and then day by day just take steps, keep pushing, and then one day that door will come down, and it might not be you that done it, but it might be the legacy of the next person or whoever that is to push through the barrier, and then that way you create change, and that way it becomes normalized. The fact that when you see South Asian women or women in general being on the board of trustees or on that board level, or even within any cog within the sports industry or any industry, business, whatever it may be, but you have to normalize it, and the way it only becomes normalized is if everyone keeps day by day pushing through the barriers.
I think because society is changing so much and what's acceptable and what isn't. When I was younger, yes, you could do that like someone's being nasty to me and ignore it. But now there is an opportunity where organisations seeing that as racism and people are called upon it. So don't be afraid. I think is the other answer, is to don't be afraid that if you've felt that and that's happened, document it. Document it, get proof and evidence of it, and put it down, because there might be a point where you're going to need that, because there's only so much a person can take. And I don't think people should be compliant to that now in this society, because the people have been there and have pushed it, and obviously social media, big cases have been shown that. I don't think now the young people coming forward should be afraid of pointing it out.
You said my point better than myself, because when I meant ignore it, I didn't mean in terms of like accept it. I meant like don't let it get to your head is what I'm trying to get
it's
at.
the fact that you can now call it out, but don't do it in a negative way. Do it in a positive way. You know, it's about education at the end of the day. If people don't know who you are, or the fact that you have to fast or you have to pray, it's just the fear of the unknown. I think if you educate people about you and your race or your culture or whatever it might be, you know, they will understand. They'll start understanding, because if they don't know, they don't know. You've got to educate them in these things and understanding about the fact that, I'm different to you. And don't be afraid of being different to somebody else. I know with youngsters, there's that you want to stay in as part of the norm and everything else, but sometimes, and then you laugh at someone if they're different, but actually,
no, but I feel like that's the coward's way. In terms of like, you know, okay, it's all well and good if you're not comfortable enough, or you feel like you're happy within, like content, just staying in the crowd and doing the normal kind of avenue and the normal life. That's all well and good, but the moment where you start hating on or laughing at other people that are trying to go above and beyond, see, I feel like that's a coward's way out. You clearly want to do something, but you don't want to do yourself, but you want to laugh and hate on the next man that's actually doing it, or the next woman that's doing it. So for me, that day I don't rate, or I don't even like to talk about it, because it's like, you can't, if you want to live a normal life and do normal things, then all well and good, but there's no point you hating and like transferring your negativity onto someone else, because like,
respect people. You know what that's the biggest thing as well, is about respecting differences, respecting people who are different, respecting their way of life, respecting what they're doing. You don't have to be a part of it, you know, but if that's who they are, that's how they want to be, you can respect them at least, to say that actually, okay, that's you, not me. But to laugh and ridicule them, it's not nice for youngsters to do that to each other. And you know, obviously that's when the bullying becomes quite apparent, you know, for kids growing up, and it's starting as young as primary schools now, where that kind of thing is happening, and it's really sad. It's really sad to see in this society, in this day and age. You know, we're seeing things that were happening back in the day, and they're happening now, and you think, what is going on? And that's why, I mean, a lot of our programs now, working with England Squash, we're going into primary schools as well, to deliver the program as well. So, and obviously coaching those teachers to actually be those activators, be those leaders, to actually deliver those programs, so that the kids feel that this is a program that can continue, and if they start it in year 3 or year 4, or it's going to happen in year 6 and everything. And similarly within youth services, you know, the youth leaders, the kids that, you know, really want to do something in their life, giving them the skills and the like opportunity that, look, this is an opportunity for you here to get some get some qualifications for free, and to do something with yourself and change, maybe make that change in your life. It's great to do, but it's everything. It's a whole society. About when you think about sport and everyone's like, oh, sports for everyone, people start thinking, well, is it is it really for everyone? And that is the big $1 million question, is sport for everyone? Because everyone says
it's sports for everyone,
for everyone, but actually is it for everyone? And when I'm doing my work, I want to make it for everyone. So within England Squash, we're even going into mental health institutions, working with the NHS, looking at people who are in those situations and offering it to them. Similarly, working with disability and making them not feel that, oh, something that they can't be a part of just because, you know, they might be deaf or have a disability, to make them a part of the question. And also the other aspect is your, you know, just because you are covered and you're a Muslim woman, that you can't be a part of something, or the fact that you are, you know, a South Asian or a black boy, that you can't be a part of something, is the whole diversity aspect about how I see things, is that I want to be inclusive, like fully adaptive and exclusive to everybody, whereas you will find people who are organisations that are not. And youngsters now, well, they'll figure out the ground. They'll see the search. You know, they see it, they hear it, they see it at school. They go to college. You know, they socialise. You see it in the parks and everything. They'll start learning. It's about what path you take. Then you're always going to have a drug dealer standing on the corner selling some drugs. You're going to take that step.
It's about what's the principles are.
Yeah.
Like,
Are you going to take that step, or you're not going to take that step? But sometimes people see it as the way out. They see it as a way out, and it's sad that society has left it to the fact that these kids see.
Yeah, but that's what the podcast is for, because it's for bringing people like yourself on, because a lot of people would see your name or see who you are and probably think like, oh, she got given the opportunity, or it was like tailor-made for her and it was just given, you know, like a gift. It was just thrown at you. That's how the young people will feel. And even like adults, they're probably thinking like it just happened for you. But really and truly, as we've seen on the podcast today, like there's a whole story behind it, and there's peaks and troughs, and there's difficult moments, and there's things that you got to deal with, face and overcome.
Yeah, always keep knocking on those doors. Find they won't open, allow it. You know what I mean? Don't get hyper about it, or don't get disheartened about it. Just, you will get frustrated because you think, well, why?
Yeah.
You know, but just be you, and just remember your journey and think, okay, fine, that door hasn't opened, I can go this way, I can go that way. I can do what I do, you know, do what you do in the community, and maybe one day it will recognise, maybe it won't. But you're still doing something great. Just think about doing something great, and not worry about other people's and the what ifs and oh, if only I. And the ifs are you know, forever. Similar to the a lot of things that people think that, oh, it should have been like this or it should have been like that, but it's not your time. It's like that opportunity is given to people for a reason, to see what they can do with that opportunity. And every opportunity you get, you should be seeing that as well. It's, you know, it's like yourself now, you know, having this opportunity to support young people, you know, how does that make you feel? Pressure?
Yeah, but I feel like for me, I don't really buy into the pressure, because I feel like I've been through pressure moments in my life where, like, because, you know, from managing a pizza shop, like, with my dad, to doing different things, like, I've experienced things before. Like, I've had the opportunity since I was young, like, before anyone else, where I've been young, I've been 14, 15, and I've been in boardrooms and, like, big meetings with my dad, and I've been shadowing my dad throughout. So, for me, it's a different kind of pressure. It's like being the second coming, you know, like, obviously my dad's done loads of stuff, and then I'm the oldest son, and, like, what's he gonna do, you know, that kind of added pressure of, like, who is he, and that kind of thing. And
how does that make you feel?
Like, before, it kind of hurt me a lot. Like, it would not hurt me, but it was like overbearing pressure, where I was thinking, like, what am I actually going to do? Like, I don't go through the same experiences, I ain't really done it. But throughout my life and the journey that I kind of took, I realised now that I've actually gone through those experiences throughout, and I've learned the lessons, and I feel like I'm in a good space where I don't really care, like, what anyone says, or like what everyone will talk about, this, that, because I've been through all of that. I've been through the hardships, and I've gone through more than most, like, which I ain't gonna, like, detail on the podcast, but because I've been through those situations and I understand everything, I know for a fact what my place is, what my role is, and what I actually want to do in my life. And so that's why this podcast and all these different avenues I'm kind of searching, and which people will see throughout my life, is because I don't really care about, like, the naysayers or whoever's chatting crap, or, like, you know, like, people, like, talking from their homes and just chatting, you know, just washing it basically. And for me, it's like, I don't really buy into that. I just do my thing, and my purpose, and I know what I'm about, I know my principles, and then I just stick to them. My word is bond, and then that's it. I just go through life just happy.
I know, and it's the fact that you have that support as well. I think that's what people find in sport, is that they don't have the support. And I want to make myself available for people in sport to show that actually if you've got a question, if you've got a query, or if you don't know how to do something, or if you don't know how to get involved, call me up, text me, send me an email, and let me see how I can help you. Because that is an issue that at the minute, the mentoring side of things is a bit slim in sport. Especially people coming in, young people, whether you're there as a marketing person, or whether you're there as an athlete, or whether you're there as a coach, you need that connection with somebody to know that actually it doesn't matter how dumb the question is, I can ask it. You know,
100%.
because that's the biggest fear is that.
Well, I never used to ask no questions. Like, because growing up, I kind of had like an issue with my voice, because as you can see, it's like really deep, but also like my brain thinks too fast for my own voice. So sometimes I get like, it doesn't sync up in terms of like my brain's moving to the next point, but my thing.
That's like my world.
He ain't said the first sentence yet. So and plus because it's deep as well, like, it makes it even harder. So I never really used to ask any questions. But then growing up, when you realise when you go through different issues and problems, you realise like that's how life is. Like you gotta overcome it. Otherwise, you ain't gonna make it to where you wanna make it, and then it depends on how much you want it. So for me, it was like I just had to overcome it, and then that's where I just kind of never looked back and just kept going.
You have to ask the question. It doesn't matter how dumb you think it is, but there's probably a million people thinking the same question. I used to have that all the time, and people in the class were like, oh, Asma, go on, ask that question, because we are all thinking that question. Just ask it, because you don't care. You'll just ask it and not feel intimidated by it being. And I'd just do it, because for me, is if I don't know, or I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? If I don't ask the question, I'm going to cause an issue or a danger or something's going to go wrong.
Random thoughts.
And so asking the questions, don't think that it's a dumb question. Even if it's about kit, even if it's about dress, even if it's about what you say, what I can't say, even if it's about basics.
It's not even just about asking questions. That same principle and mindset could be applied to doing things. So, anything positive that you want to do or you have a feeling towards, just go do it. Just put that pressure on yourself and just jump and just like see if you can make the ladder. If you fail, so what? Just go again. Just keep going until you finally get there.
Yeah. And you find that girls struggle more with that than the boys because of being shy and maybe feel embarrassed.
You gotta like embed all those feelings in, like you said before, and just go for it. Like, because it's always gonna be like there's always gonna be dice, and it's always. Everything's a calculated risk, whether it's business, athletes, or anything that you put yourself into. There's always going to be risk. So it's not about like, obviously to a certain point you digress everything and you try limit the risk as much as possible, but there will always be a risk. So you either got to jump or you ain't going to do it.
That's a nice way of putting it, really.
So then how do you transfer those principles that we just talked about in your role at England Squash?
So I keep it real, I keep it honest, and within that engagement role that I'm doing with squash is to ensure that the organisation understands community, because it's not a quick win. You have to have conversations, you have to network, you have to create trust between yourselves so that organisations know and communities know that you're here to help and support them to achieve something, and it's not just a numbers game for you, because a lot of organisations it's all about the numbers, and I think that's wrong. And I think the way things are done, it's all about how many people did you get to do this. Yeah, fine, you need that. I don't get me wrong, you do need that, but also it's about the relationships that you build, because that's that aspect of longevity that you receive, is that when you ignite passion with someone about squash and you introduce them to it and they really love it and enjoy it, it's about progression, and it's also about them taking it up and continuing it as a form of well-being, maybe form of their fitness, maybe form of their life. But getting leaders in the community is great, because I think that's the way to go, because they're people in that community who can help support their communities. So, for example, we did a great piece of work with Green Lane Mosque. They did something where their own women want to be the activators or the leaders, and then they want to be able to teach those children that are in their madrasa class or in their club, and that's great, because it's a model that works. It's it's what scouts do. I've been a scout leader as well, and it's about creating those leaders to help support those kids as well.
Plus, it's not even if you make it as an athlete, because I think you can become a leader by learning the lesson that you learn from actually playing squash or any sport.
Yeah.
Because you might
The
not
disciplines,
be,
yeah.
disciplines, and like even working as a team, teamwork, all these different things.
There's so much more
Yeah,
than
you don't
just
have to
the game.
become the best at the game, but if you're only, even if you make it like a decent level, or if you just like playing the game, you
Yeah.
learn so much from it.
Yeah, you learn so much, especially, you know, being in a pair or
Yeah.
as a team or as a club itself, you know, you're all working together to achieve something and support each other. There's so many other, you know, kind of like lessons when you're an athlete or whether you're involved in sport. There's a social side, there's a support side, there's that participation side, you know, there's so, and then there's also that awareness side, and then it's that promotion side as well. So there's so many different aspects to the game itself. So I hope I can support England squash with the communities in Birmingham and the West Midlands to kind of like have a legacy of squash and maybe create that world champion in Birmingham or in this region. Maybe we'll get somebody who is from a diverse background, you know, whoever he or she they might be to become that next star. And I hope that, you know, I've been a part of their journey, and even if I'm not a part of their journey, that I'm able to help promote what we're doing.
And hopefully we'll get you back on the podcast with that champion, whoever he or she may be, and then we'll do it again.
But even you know, socially, I'm aware. I'm still, you know, head of women and girls at Moseley Cricket Club. I always support the girls with cricket. And all sports. I don't think that sport should be done singularly. I think that you know, you can work collaboratively, and I think when people and national governing bodies understand that sports can work together, and it's not a numbers game for them, you will get the best out of people in those sports, because and then they've just not got one option, they've got more than one option, and that way they'll thrive in the one option that they do have.
It's about creating an environment.
That's
it goes
it.
back down to the thing that we said at the start. It takes a village to raise a person, and if you create that village and that environment, then everyone will flourish. Because there's opportunities everywhere. It's like you're not looking at the drug dealer or the one with the big whip that's down the road that's selling all these drugs and that, but you're looking at good people, like good pious people that are actually trying to make a difference positively
and
in
having
the community.
Positivity and good values and management, and thinking about humanity, thinking about not just humanity, the world, and how we can support things sustainably as well, as that's another key aspect as well. So thank you so much for having me
No, it's been a great podcast. No,
on
thanks
your
for coming
show, and I
on,
hope some young people have learnt something from this or my story or part of my journey. There's a lot more to it, but we won't get into that now.
We'll get you back on when you get the champion and we'll talk about it then.
There's a lot more to it. Okay, no, thank you so much.